Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Ruchi, and I have Sharmila with me, and we're going to be talking about deschooling, what it is, why we need to deschool, what are the benefits, and exactly how to go about it, and how it benefited us. Because I think both of us have deschooled. It was a part of the homeschooling journey. It was a part of the process. So we're going to talk about deschooling today. Welcome, Sharmila.
Yeah, hi Ruchi. Nice to meet you. And Ruchi is in a different time zone right now. She's in the US and it's morning time. It's and I'm here in another time zone. So it feels wonderful that we're both sharing this live together, in spite of the time difference. Technology can do wonders. So
Yeah, distance doesn't mean what it used to back in the
right.
day. So luckily we can still come together and share our experiences and our knowledge. So yeah, we're gonna talk about deschooling now. So I'll start. Started homeschooling when my son was in grade 3. My daughter was in grade 1. That's when we stopped, and we stopped in December. So we didn't finish the full year of grade 3. We stopped halfway. So in December, we started homeschooling. And I remember one of my very senior friends, a
Mhm.
homeschooler, meaning she had been homeschooling for a while, she told me about deschooling. And I didn't really understand it. I think because when you go from schooling to homeschooling, it's kind of like, okay, you get off the horse and you get on another horse. And then it's like, this
Right.
race where you don't want to miss out because there is this like FOMO, the fear of missing out, because grade 3 is still continuing. They're still learning. So,
Hmm.
there was this feeling that, oh, we can't take a break. How can you be school? How can you take a break? You have to learn, you have to continue, or your kids will fall behind. But we did end up deschooling, and the way that we did it, there's a lot of research online, and there's a lot of information online where it basically says for every year of schooling that your child has experienced, you need 1 month of deschooling. So since my kids were in grade 3, the goal was 3 months of deschooling
Hmm.
where we had no
Hmm.
classes, there was no curriculum, there was no work,
Hmm.
no written work. It wasn't that kind of, it was
Right.
just kind of like a detox from school.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the goal was 3 months, but we could have gone longer. Sometimes kids don't need it and they figure out what they want to do, so it can be shorter. But it was a very crucial reset in the brain, not just for the kids, but for me as a parent.
Yeah.
This becoming comfortable with not seeing your children do anything. They're
Hmm.
playing with Lego, or they're watching YouTube videos. That's all a part of deschooling, where
Hmm. Yeah.
planned curriculum, there's no planned learning. So we have discussed in the past here that learning is everywhere. Everything you do is learning. It's not just what you do when you have a workbook in front of you or a textbook in front of you. Learning is playing with Lego, it's baking a cake, with
Hmm.
your mom, it's going for a walk in the park.
Hmm.
It's all learning, especially for young kids. Everything that they do is learning. So the goal was again 3 months. That was really hard for others to watch. Like my husband did not understand what we were doing.
Hmm.
He was used to waking up, he goes to work, the kids wake up, they go to school. And now in deschooling, we're not doing anything. There's no work plan. He would ask, so you're homeschooling now, what are you going to do today? And we had no answer. The answers were, well, play dates. We're going to go on a play date and meet this homeschooler in this side of town. We're going to go to a museum. We're going to go for a walk. And he didn't even understand, like, going for a walk in a park. How is that education? For him, it was
Hmm.
very difficult to understand. So I did have to, though, let him know that you can't comment right now. Give us our 3 months of space.
Right.
That reset
Hmm.
has to take place in a kid's mind, because every
Hmm.
day when a child is in school, they wake up and they are told what to wear, which books to carry, what kind of shoes. Is it going to be sports? Is it going to be formal day? Then which subjects they're going to be learning, what they're going to be learning in each subject. Everything is told to them. So, deschooling is this process where the child is kind of left alone and they figure it out themselves. What is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to learn? How do I want to spend my day? And that's such an important process in learning, especially in homeschooling, because you
Hmm.
want that the voice of the child is the loudest voice. So I have found that even as adults, when we grow up and we move out of our parents' house or we move out of the hostel and we enter adulthood, there's this time period where it takes us time to adjust to all the
Yeah.
freedom
Hmm.
and kind of know ourselves. So that's basically what deschooling is. It's giving a child that opportunity to figure it out. And there might be times where the child says, I'm bored, I have nothing to do. My friends are in school, I'm alone, I'm home alone, the bus is going by, I'm not on it. Those feelings will come. And at that moment, it's very important to just observe and witness the child's feelings, be present for them, but then know that okay, these feelings do pass, and on the other side there is the benefit that you have, and those benefits are basically that the child really knows then what they want to do, and
Hmm.
then when they start learning and when they decide what to do, there's this different sort of passion and interest that they have that they wouldn't have had if you were the one that told them, do math, let's do fractions, let's do decimals. When it comes from within, there's a different sort of interest that's there. So
Right.
that's basically deschooling. And I think Sharmila is going to talk more about how the parents need to deschool, because deschooling is as much of a process for the parents as it is for the child.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, Ruchi, I would say it is more about the parent and very less about the child, because it's very easy for a child to step into a zone where we are okay with whatever they do, and they are fine. They probably for some time won't know what to do because they're so used to a routine and somebody else deciding for them. So they might just sleep, or they might just lie around, read a book, or watch some movies or YouTube videos or video game, or play games like Minecraft. During our deschooling time, my children played Fortnite for almost the entire day. Um, so, or it could be, wake up at whatever time, eat whenever you want, display reluctance to doing things like brushing your teeth or taking a bath. And yeah, so when we started our deschooling, my oldest was already around 11 and a half, and my second one was around 8.5, 9, and Tara was really small, around 3. So for me, it was like, you know, my children have been to school, and suddenly this whole void. And I think the void was huge for me because I was used to set of routine. I had to do things one after the other to be able to maximize the time that I had. And plus, I lived in Mumbai for most of my life. So, everything rotates around this bus, this train. You have to reach. So, I was completely oriented towards that, and I kept feeling that if I had to make things happen, everything had to be on schedule. Now suddenly I started seeing my children are not doing anything. And in fact, my son, the oldest one, stopped going to school before me, and my second one stopped going. And Tara used to go to a daycare playgroup kind of a space so that I could pull out a few hours to work. Um, and he would be at home. He was like, I'm okay being at home, y'all go. And then when you'd come back, and I would see that he's not eaten his food, he's just lying on his bed, the bed is not made up, I used to get really agitated, you know. I was like, what is he doing? What is he doing? He's just at home. And he also kind of, because of my questions, went back into his shell and, you know, used to shut off, used to not say anything. And that used to trouble me even further. That used to be like, oh, why is my son in his shell? He's constantly in his room, is not coming out and sitting with us. And that used to bother me a lot. And, you know, at that point of time, we felt that maybe starting a learning center is the best thing to do. Maybe, you know, he would be among other kids. And I have been facilitating, I've been a teacher for so long. So that's just the next easy step. And we did that, you know. We started a space, and we had about 7 8 children coming in. But 2 3 months down the line, my children started saying that, you know, we don't want anybody in the house. And we also lived on the first floor, and we ran the center on the ground floor. So it was in a nice beautiful bungalow. We Whenever we pass it now, we remember those days, and we are like, oh wow, those were the times. And yeah, so it was crazy. And my children said they didn't want others to come home, and the other kids also could never keep the boundaries, you know, of home and the center. They would find a lot more interesting things to do upstairs. And whenever I would say, "Ki, okay, you'll stay upstairs, I'm doing something else downstairs," they would all want to be downstairs. So it was kind of very, it was crazy, it was stressful for me because I wasn't finding a way out. And which is why I say the schooling is more about the parents than the children, because I was rushing into things. I was rushing. I just felt that this is not this we've stepped into homeschooling, so now a learning center is the best option. And then I used to work towards creating workshops, organizing facilitators to come and deliver workshops at my center, and my children never wanted to attend those. They say, we don't want to attend, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do that. And I was like, I'm doing it for you guys, and you all don't want to be part of it, so what's that? And that was when, you know, Sandra Dodd's book on unschooling, I happened to read it. It was given to me by another unschooling parent. She said, read it, you'll get, you'll understand, and you know, you will learn a lot more just by reading her book. And in that book she had written that for every year of schooling you need a month of deschooling. And if your children need that many months as to the number of years that they have been to school, imagine how much do you need. And that kind of hit me, you know, like, and that kind of made me realize that yes, my children probably will de-school very soon, but I am the one who's stopping them. And the other thing that she said was, every time a parent creates an obstacle to the deschooling process, you're back to square one, and you're restarting the deschooling process. You've gone back to your beginning phase. And I could see that happening. I could see that, I could sense that happening. And uh, it required a lot of reflection, deep thought, deep thinking, making crucial decisions at that point of time, so that, you know, my children would get what they wanted and what we actually envisioned for them. So we envisioned a life where they had a lot of freedom, they made choices based on what they wanted to do, and that was not happening because I was posing a problem. Because every time I was saying, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, why are you not doing this, why are you not doing that, so why not, that I think that was causing a huge problem. So yes, deschooling is what how I define deschooling uh, is to unlearn the conditioning or the set habits that have become part of your life because of school, because of a school environment, you know. And the word schooled means taught, where everything you're schooled to do this, you're trained to do this. So once I got that, I started taking things one step at a time. We slowed down. I slowed down, I think, more than my children. I slowed down. And then slowly, steadily, things changed. Things changed. It did take more than a year, but things changed, and we started enjoying. We started enjoying ourselves. I started seeing things differently.
Sharmila, I can't hear you right now, and your screen is frozen. Okay. Okay, so right now, this my screen is coming as frozen. I don't know if it's frozen for everybody. Okay, I think Sharmila will join back again. But yeah, so she's discussing a very private, personal journey that she took for deschooling, and it is definitely important for parents more so than for the kids. I absolutely agree with her. I do think, though, that if you're preparing in advance before you take the leap to homeschooling, that will help. It will give you a head start in the deschooling process. Shamila, welcome back.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
I,
was just
yes,
I was just saying that if parents are prepared for the deschooling before they even start homeschooling, that can kind of
mm,
jumpstart the process so
true.
that once you actually pull your kids out, it
Mm,
becomes easier. So I know for myself, 1.5 years before I actually pulled my kids out of school, I had started the journey. I had started speaking to
mm,
people and making lists and what would homeschooling look like. So it started much before they actually stopped schooling. But I completely agree with everything that you're saying, especially when you see them doing things that kind of like, like not brushing teeth or not waking up on time and, all those things definitely, it's hard for parents to see, especially when you're used to the routines.
yeah,
Our childhood was like that. Then we've raised our kids like that, sending them to school, and there's the uniform, and everything is so regimented, and
right.
stepping out of that, the shift that it takes in the wiring of the brain is, yeah. But do you want to continue what you were saying?
Yeah, though I've lost my line of thought, but I'll continue with what you shared just now. Yeah, that's uh, so with my children. What we also saw was what we also saw was when I stopped becoming a nag. They would literally tell me, "Mom, you're a nag," and that would hurt me. That would make me feel that, gosh, is this what my children think about me? And so the minute I stopped being a nag, they started opening up, and they started chatting, coming across to me, talking to me about what they would want to do and what they were doing with their, they used to play Fortnite, as I mentioned. And that was also when I read in a book that once a child learns to trust, their parents. So once the child learns to trust their parents, there is no bounds to how much they can express. There are no bounds to how much they can share, they can talk. And if your child is not doing that, that means there is somewhere they don't trust you or they fear you. They feel that, oh, my mom is not going to understand, my mom is not going to agree with what I want to do, she will have a different take on things. So all these thoughts are there in their mind. So parents, if you see that your children are not communicating with you, there's nothing wrong with them. And telling them, "Arey, bolo batao, tell me what's going on," doesn't work. Doesn't work at all. You need to go inward and think about where are you, bringing an obstacle in this open communication between you and your child.
Mm.
So that was one. um yeah, yeah, I think for now I'll just.
Wanted to add one thing that
Mm,
I meet a lot of parents, and I think I count as one of those parents. And I think that my kids tell me everything and that my children share a lot. And I meet a lot of parents who think that. But the
wow.
children are very smart. They know what to share and what not to share. Just share enough that mom feels like she knows, but don't share
Mm,
so much that you're going to get judged. So,
mm,
I mean, I know that there are parts that my kids share and then parts that they don't share.
mm,
So,
mm,
I think even, a lot of the parents who are listening who feel like their kids don't talk to them, that
mm.
they can also learn from this. But even the parents who think their children do talk to them should learn from
Definitely.
this, that we
Yeah.
we have to come from this place of non-judgment. Actually, it's
Mm,
almost as if treat your child like it's someone else's child, telling
mm,
you that, they like playing video games, or they like anime or manga, or like the Japanese
mm,
animation and all that. Because when another child tells me that, they're doing some activity, 12 hours a day, or they're really focused on something, I'll be like, oh wow, that's great. But if it's my child, I'm like, 12 hours a day on Minecraft. So
yeah.
almost, try to step out of it. Don't personalize it. Don't internalize it like this is your child or you have some ownership over them. It's
Mm,
a human being. They have their interests. And
yeah.
I'm saying this while I'm remembering that I need to do this too, because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, right now I'm going through this process of deschooling for the second time with my child, because when the pandemic started, my kids joined an online school and they were there for almost 2 years, and now they've stopped. So again, we are deschooling, so
Mm,
the plan
yeah.
is to leave my daughter alone for 2 months, because, when school stopped when we came here, that was like 2 weeks ago, or 1 week ago, we came here. And I kept thinking, okay, now what next? She's not logging in for classes. She's not doing online school anymore. So what next? And every time I would broach the topic with her, she was crying. She was so stressed. There was so much of anxiety. And education is important. It's important for kids to be knowledgeable. They should grow up and contribute to the world, but it shouldn't come at the cost of their mental health. So I stopped asking and I just left her alone. And for 2 days straight, all she did was play with Lego. She was building, building, building. And mind you, Lego is an easier activity to witness than video gaming. As for me, especially, so if she's playing with Lego, I feel like, oh, she's learning. With video gaming, it's not as easy to see the learning as it is with Lego or with drawing or with art or with reading. But I had to, zip my mouth and just let her play, and not let her play. I mean, she played, and not judge, not ask, not question, because my son is in the other room and he's doing his online. There's a course that he wants to do online, so he's doing that, and she's playing with Lego. So I remember my mom's like, "You should tell her to do something." I'm like, "She's doing something. She's playing with Lego," you know, because I had to
Yeah.
remind myself that okay, we're deschooling again. She doesn't have a curriculum. There's no Cambridge board. Nobody's telling her what to study. She needs to figure it out for herself. So she,
Right.
and it's been about a week, and she still plays with Lego a lot, but we're deschooling again now, and I try not to interfere. And yeah, she's just doing her own thing, and we're deschooling again with her.
Yes, and this deschooling process, even though I say that we are now in a comfortable position, there are still moments when I feel that I'm trying to push my ideas or my thoughts on my children without giving them their space and time to reason out things and decide for themselves. So I'll just give you a recent example. So my second son, in the beginning of January, he came and shared that, okay, now I'm ready. I think I want to do IGCSE boards too. and I would like to join the same learning space that my oldest is going to. And so, I immediately jumped. It was like, okay, finally he's wanting to get into academics again. And for me, I enjoyed academics. I enjoyed, and I had taken the humanities field, so stream. So I enjoyed studying sociology, psychology, philosophy, and it it really took me to a very different perspective of looking at life. And I was like, my children cannot be away from academics. It gives so much. So I had jumped, and this was something that I had not considered at all during the deschooling phase, because I kept saying, "Ki, okay, baad mein, whenever they are ready, they are going to get back to it." And so what happened was, he also in excitement, in the initial euphoria, we got books, he started studying. And I spoke to the learning space. I said, give him about a couple of months to prepare, and then take his readiness assessment and so on. And just last week he said, Mama, I just don't want to do this now. I'm not ready. I don't feel ready. And then I said, but what about all the books that I've got for you? Because Cambridge books are expensive. And so he said, they are not going to go waste. I will still do them at my pace whenever I want to, whenever I feel like. And what's the hurry? You know, and that, his words, what's the hurry? And I will still do the books at my pace, again got me to the fact, it just revealed to me, it's like this revelation bombarded in front of me, that I was being pushy again. I was trying to kind of push my thoughts and my ideas and my beliefs on him once again, and he was not happy about it. So now for the past few days we have um, I've just told him, I'm not going to talk about this with you. And if you want any help, you can come to me. And whatever. We had just started having a beautiful relationship. I don't want this to spoil it. And I feel very bad that I did it to you. So tomorrow he is traveling. He's going to go to another homeschooler's place in Thane, and they are going to spend a week there. And he's super excited about it. It He's like, we are going to be in the house alone, Mama, because this homeschooler's family is out of town. Only their son is there, who's around 15 years old, so 2 years older than my son. But there's so much excitement, and they're like, we're gonna. And then I realized that yes, they're going to take care of a house completely on their own. And this child's mom shared that we don't have a maid, so they are going to be doing all the housework by themselves, cook, clean, wash their own clothes. I said, why aren't I looking at the learnings that are coming through that? And their experiences. Living with somebody else for a week also can get tough, because you have your ways, the other person has his ways. So there are so many other life skills that he's learning, and these are going to take him to living an independent life later. And this is also the same group, that he has been gaming with. So they game together, they participate in tournaments together. And uh, and they, you know one person's interest often flows to the other. And we've seen that happening so many times. Once they had given themselves a typing challenge, so they all had to learn to type using the right typing skills, and try and maximize the number of words within a minute. And they were on and on with it for so long. So I recalled all these experiences. Then there was one, they had got into solving math puzzles, and they would challenge each other, they would pose and this was completely free. It wasn't something that I had given them, they were doing it by themselves. So that was a joy. And so yes, deschooling is so much about the parent. and so less about the child. Um, yeah. So, Ruchi, maybe next what we could talk about is also a little bit about fears, that parents have, which uh, kind of leads them to behave in certain ways. And how important it is for us to relook at those fears and see whether they really, as or probably see what they do to the entire deschooling phase.
Right. I before that, I just wanted to mention that, when we talk about deschooling, we're talking about, okay, no academics, no planned learning, and no school. But at the same time, what is it that we're planning for our kids? Like, what is it that we're doing? So I think that,
Yeah,
taking them for walks, going out in nature, meeting other families, homeschooler families, or just other families with similar interests, that's important. Libraries, browsing libraries or taking them to libraries, that would be like one activity that we did, that would take like the entire afternoon, because you're driving to a library, kids are browsing, they're reading a little bit in the library, and then you're coming back. So that was another activity. Lots of museums. We live in such a rich country, it's so rich in heritage and history. We don't have to import foreign artifacts to fill our museums. Our museums are so beautiful, and every city has them. So even if you just Google, your museums near me, in the Google bar, you'll find so many options and places that you can go. So it's not like we don't do anything. As the parent, it is our responsibility now, because we're deschooling and we've taken them out of school. So having that kind of time in nature, and then life skills, the things that, we can kind of teach them, and the time that we can spend with them, it increases the bonding. Traveling
right.
together, traveling is a great way to de-school.
Yeah.
So though there are lots of things, it's not like everyone just sits at home on their device and watches YouTube videos. I think
True,
parents,
true.
a lot that we can do, a lot of planning that we do
Yeah,
for
yeah.
deschooling.
So that's so true, Ruchi. So in fact, even for us, we did a lot of traveling during this phase, deschooling phase, and catching up with homeschoolers, and simple activities like organizing potlucks and so on. Because my house kind of became the hub, and a lot of people, we used to, okay, potluck karna hai, chalo, we'll all do it at Sharmila's place. That was how it was, and that was really joyful. It was a lot of fun, and children got to meet other homeschoolers, got to understand other homeschoolers. My children also did two unschooler camps, two, I think three unschooler camps, and two at Shikshantar, one at Sambhavna, where they actually went without me. So I went and dropped them, and that's it. uh, and then they were there for 21 days to a month, and that those things, I think those experiences opened up the world for them, and they started looking forward to experiences like meeting up with other unschoolers. My oldest, he was just 14 when he did a month long Meghalaya trip, um, with another unschooler and a few of his friends. So, trusting also children to know that they would want different experiences. And yes, we visited a lot. I think we were there at Crosswords almost every few days. We were there at Crosswords. We would uh, go for treks. We lived right next to a hill, so uh, climbing that hill was a regular activity. And then we were in Mumbai for a year, so even in Mumbai, we lived in a beautiful colony premise, lots of trees, lots of things to do. So our family walks were so important, and they were joyful. We got into cooking together as a family, cooking and baking, and So those, I think, those experiences really brought us together. And even when my children would game, so by then, by the end of our first year of homeschooling, we ensured that each of our child had their own laptops or iPads and so on. Initially, my second one used my husband's old laptop, and my oldest assembled his own gaming PC. Uh, but we ensured that that would happen, and my children never. Everybody says that children do get addicted, and what I would observe was, yes, there were days when they would continuously be online and playing games, but they would not only play games, they would also, something around their game would interest them, and they would go into researching that and watching YouTube videos. My second son was into watching Netflix series, so Brooklyn Nine-Nine had become his life, and he understood so much about the police force and detectives and solving mysteries, and then they were into animes. There was a phase when he was reading some anime where volleyball was the key game, and oh, we went around trying to find a volleyball class that would take him, and everywhere we went we were told that he's too small because he was just around 11 at that time, and you need to have a certain height and physical strength, to be able to take the ball which comes, and to play the game. And no one, so then we used to at times in the evenings go and watch people play volleyball at the volleyball class. And then we got him a ball, and he played at home. We played with him, and we had gone to LSUC, where for all 5 days, all he did was play volleyball from morning to evening. So till it was sleep time. So, and people would just gather and join him to play. In fact, they would wait कि सिद्धू कब आएगा and we will play volleyball. So I've seen my children, follow these interests that they have had. My oldest wanted a guitar, and we were a bit reluctant about buying a guitar. See now how our conditioning comes into fore. I was reluctant on buying a guitar for him because we already had a keyboard. We bought a very beautiful, expensive keyboard for him when he was younger, and it was lying unused. Nobody was using it. It was just there. My heart didn't let me, give it away. So it was just there, and I kept telling him, I'll get you a guitar and then you won't use it. And fortunately for him, last year, one of our friends got a guitar, second-hand guitar for himself. And Aditya just went there and said, "Can I take your guitar?" And since then, since that day, that guitar has been at my place, and he's been self learning to play. And it's a wonder to to hear him play. I'm not in the room, but it's a joy to watch him play a guitar. And he's learning it from his gadget, his laptop. He follows videos, and he doesn't follow any particular course. He just follows videos to learn from YouTube or from other sources, some YouTubers that he follows and all that. And he is learning it. And it's a joy to see how well he plays the guitar. Uh, so, these experiences made me realize that your laptops are not stay an addiction maybe till we parents feel that they're not getting anything out of them. And but once we give them the freedom, once they have that freedom, you see that they automatically use it. They regiment their own use. So my children are into cooking, they are into doing so many things. My son participates in household work. So yes, so with because I just mentioned this because screen time and addiction is a huge
Yes.
conversation,
Yeah.
and during the deschooling phase, I'm sure many parents feel that their children are constantly on their gadgets, and not learning anything, not doing anything. And so maybe you could also share some of your experiences around.
Yeah. Well, I think all kids and families are very different, and there's no
Mm,
right or wrong way. I've
true.
noticed that for my daughter, she has no restrictions for her screen, and she's fine with it. I'm very comfortable with how she uses the screens. She will research either unicorns or sharks or Lego, and she does what she does. It can go on, and there's no limits for her. But my son is a different story. I've noticed that when he's gaming, he will not eat, he won't use the bathroom. He just goes on and on with a video game. And even after he shuts it off, which is usually not his own choice to shut it off, it's usually me telling him, and then
Mm,
he will shut it off. There's like after effects. There's he's quite short tempered, and it's not just because he had to stop doing what he wanted to do, but like
mm,
there's a different kind of gaming language, like the way that the gamers communicate with each other. I don't want to be spoken to like that. So I have a problem with it. So I think that when you're, even from me, when I play a video game for like 4 hours straight and then I go to bed, I'm dreaming about that video game.
true.
It's in my
Yeah.
head. So I play like a farming game, or I love Pokemon. I play Pokemon Go. So, but when I go to sleep, in my sleep, I'm catching Pokemon. So, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't know.
Mm,
But for children, I do think that there is something called addiction. It's not in everybody. I think a lot of parents overdiagnose addiction in their children, especially
mm,
gaming addiction or screen addiction. But I think the basic definition is if you're doing something compulsively and you don't have the control to stop it, and it's having adverse effects in other aspects of your life, like you're not going to the bathroom and you're not eating and you're not sleeping, I think
mm,
that's bad. I don't think it's good. So, for my son, there are limits.
mm,
There are, yeah, I don't want to make it sound like I'm overly strict, because he still plays like 5, 6 hours a day, and
mhm,
he's he's fine with it. It's kind of we've reached this point where it's an agreement that's been made. So he will tell me how many hours, and then the countdown will start. And then
mhm,
I'll give him 30-minute warning, 10-minute warning, 5-minute warning. And then I will never just do a hard stop in the middle of his game. Again, I will remind him that, okay, you said 3 hours, it's been 3 hours. But then eventually I do,
mm,
sometimes
mm.
I'll just pull the plug and be like, okay, enough. So I think all kids are different. Like with my daughter, I never needed to do any of this.
Yeah, I think what's important over here, Ruchi, is that deschooling doesn't mean that the children do whatever they want completely. It's about developing that relationship of trust. And when a parent says that they are uncomfortable with something, the child also not looking at it as a threat or a fear, or the parent not saying that you should not do this. It's about saying I am uncomfortable about this. I don't think it is good for you. I don't think it is healthy for you. And then and coming up with something that is mutually understandable, mutually agreeable with both. I think
Right.
that teaches a child a bigger life skill, because tomorrow in life you're going to meet people with different needs, different perspectives. How do you get along with them?
Yeah.
And all that starts at home. So in fact, when people talk to me about, restricting children's gaming time or things, I always say that, it's not about you restricting. It's about you facilitating a process where the children get to see, and they value you for what you're saying without any baggage attached, you
Yeah.
know. And that, I think, as a parent, you strive towards that, you will slowly start seeing that your child will follow what you want to say. They will follow, or they will, but now they'll be doing it because they also believe in it. They also feel that, yes. So
Right.
restrictions, and even if you start with restrictions, even if you say that I'm restricting it, but also sharing that this is me as an individual saying this. I'm open to hearing your point of view, I'm open to hearing your side. And
The
so
whole negotiation that takes place,
yes,
and
yes.
then also, like, how is it that I'm communicating my displeasure? Am I yelling? Because if I'm the one that's yelling, he will learn that that's how you solve problems, you yell. Whereas
Right.
if I'm negotiating, I'm telling my point of view, he might learn that that's a better way to deal with differences rather than, you know,
Hmm.
bullying or, pushing someone into doing.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Like for us at our home, uh, I will find it really tough to run my house if I don't get support from my children. Or because I have two dogs, I have cats, I have three children, and if they don't do their jobs in the house or their chores, or they don't do their work on time, I think I would go mad because it would all come on me. So I remember days when I have expressed this. I have thrown tantrums too. I've said that I'm not going to do anything in the house. I've gone through all those methods. But finally, I've seen that when I have shared it in a way where the children understand, and at times I have not shied away from giving tasks, saying that, I want you to put up the clothes to dry. Can you do it? I want you to do it now because otherwise the clothes won't dry. Or I want you to sweep the floor today because the maid isn't coming, the helper isn't coming. Or I want you to cook today. Can you make something for your sister? So, I realize that I can give them these clear instructions. And when I am working, I say, I'm working, no disturbing me. Whatever you need, you can do it by yourself. Handle the doorbell, do it all by yourself. And then they do it. I've never seen them say that I'm not going to do it or I don't want to do it. So it's all about how you relate to your child. At times, just giving them clear instructions because they are finally children in a way, and they may not think about it, because, or they might not think that that's needed. So just saying,
Exactly.
bringing it to the fore, you know, uh, seen that has helped. And instead of my tantrums, talking it out is a much better way. And also seeing that this is my need and I want help to, satisfy my need. So,
Yeah.
uh,
But it does
yeah,
take a lot of explanation
yes,
also.
yes,
Yeah, my
it
kids
does.
do a lot of chores. My kids do a lot of chores, and they don't always understand that before we sleep, why do we clean a kitchen? So when you wake up, the kitchen is clean and you can have your breakfast. So these things do take a little bit of explanation sometimes because they'll ask. So I'll tell. And one of the things that I always say is that kids learn what they need to learn when they need to learn it. And these are all very important life skills. Someday they will need to know how to keep their laundry clean. And, because if you want to go out, you want to wear something. Well, if you haven't put it in the wash, it's not going to get magically washed and returned to you. You have to take your clothes out, put them in the wash, dry them, fold them, and it goes back in the cupboard. These are not all, there's no magician in the house who's automatically cleaning all of your
Right.
dishes or automatically cooking all your food. So, these are very important life skills that they do need to learn, and it's better that they learn it sooner than later. Because I've seen, when people enter adulthood, they struggle with some of these things.
Mm,
They'll be
mm,
adults, they'll be working, and their house is a complete mess, and they don't have clean clothes to wear. When they need to wear a white shirt, they don't have any white shirts, and all those things. So I completely agree with what you're saying, and it's helpful to everybody in the house. You're not doing the things just for your room to be clean. You're helping with the common spaces, and it's a family effort, and that's always very helpful. And yeah,
Yeah.
that those are important life skills. And I find that when they're in school, they get excused from a lot of these things because school takes up so much
So
time.
much
Like,
time. Yes.
it's yeah, they're gone for 8 hours, and then there's usually homework. And then you don't want to tell kids to sweep the floor after school. You sound like an abusive parent, right? So those are those are things that schooling doesn't allow you to do. But when they're homeschooled and when you're going through the deschool process, these are all learning experiences. How do you mop a floor? So that you don't get lines when you're looking from a certain angle. So all these are very important skills,
Yes.
life skills.
So, an interesting example comes to my mind. So, my son had this habit of hanging his clothes in the bathroom after having his bath, and he wouldn't put them in the laundry basket. And, initially, every single day, I used to take his clothes along with the laundry basket, start the machine. Then I said, what if I don't do that? What if I just take the laundry basket and whatever is there in the laundry basket that gets washed? And then, so I did that. I said that no, it's not. I've been telling him that all he needs to do is take his clothes and put them in the laundry basket so that they would go for a wash. And then, so yeah, and then after he saw that he had finished off with all his underwear, and then he realized, Mama, I can't find anything. I don't see t-shirts. I don't see this. I said, okay, what should we do? And then he said, okay, I'll turn on the machine. I said, okay, go ahead. And then started the entire process. Okay, how do I do it? How do I turn on the machine? And then I taught him. I without, you know, I realize now that if I had accused him, labeled him, or said that, you're such a dirty guy, you keep the bathroom filled with clothes and there's so much dirt around and all that, he would have not liked it. He would have felt it very demeaning. But when I said, okay, you want my help? Come, I'll show you. It it you know so much time was saved, and he didn't feel labeled, he didn't feel judged, and we did it. And after that, I regularly started telling him, can you just take the laundry basket and start the machine? So then maybe, you start the machine, I'll put the clothes to
Yeah.
dry. So and then it just came naturally. But I think if I would have forced him to come and say that, this is how you do it, probably he wouldn't have done it at all. So yeah, these experiences during deschooling are so crucial, and uh, they teach you so much. They teach you so much about. Uh, they take you into a reflective mode of how you behave, how your behavior is impacting in your children, your spouse, the family environment, and so on. Yeah. Uh, so maybe now we could come to some of the fears, that uh, we have. I remember that when we started deschooling, my biggest fear was their future. What will they do? How will they survive? What kind of jobs will they get? And when you see your children, not doing anything for the day, that fear becomes like a huge giant in front of you. That कुछ भी नहीं कर रहा है, ये कैसे आगे बढ़ेगा? But yeah, so that one fear was very huge. The other fear was that, are these kids going to ever learn to be social, and are they ever going to learn socially acceptable ways of behavior? That was my second fear. uh, I think my third fear was mainly around them, and how they look at me as a mom. So how do they perceive me as a parent? So that used to bog me down because I didn't want them to look at me as a devil. And there have been times, where I've heard children say that, "Oh, my mom's a devil. She just doesn't do this. She just doesn't listen to me." And this was when I was a teacher and I used to teach children, and they would open up and share, and that used to make me feel like, gosh, I don't want my children to feel that way about me. So I guess, these fears played up during my deschooling phase, stopping me from, deschooling too. And I think the best way to deal with that was to address these fears. Ask myself, where is it coming from? Would I get solutions right away? If they were at school today, would that mean that they were going to have a super duper career, and they're going to earn a lot of money and be happy in future? So I actually started asking myself these questions, and then I said, what's the hurry? What's the hurry was something that I started using very often. That right now they need to do what they want to. They need to play. They need to just we get that alignment back in themselves, where they never feel the need to lie or to just kind of say things because the other one wants to hear. It's like start creating the mask that you're going to use
Yeah, the
everywhere.
pretending.
The
Yeah, I call
pretend.
it, yeah,
Yeah,
pretending
yeah.
to be what you're not, you know.
What you're
I
not.
think,
And then,
yeah, as parents, we don't want our kids pretending with us, even if they pretend to the world.
mm,
Yeah, we don't want them
yeah,
pretending to us. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I think one
So,
more fear, though, is also the judgment from others. I think a lot of us who, who live in
mm,
like a building where you see everyone's kids going to school, and, what school everyone goes to, the kids, the school's names and all that. There's always this like fear that, okay, my kids are home all day. What will people think, or what will your parents think, or your in-laws, the older generation, or family members,
mm,
so uh, I think that's also another fear that a lot of people have. And even if
mm,
they, even if they don't acknowledge it, I think somewhere in the back of our minds, it's something that
mm.
we think about, even if we don't verbalize it. That
Yeah, yeah.
we don't want our kids to be that example. Like, look at their kids; they don't do anything, and look at like that example. We don't want our kids to be that example. So
Yes, yeah, yeah. In fact, yes, during this phase, my children stopped. There was a phase when they stopped interacting with children outside, my boys especially, because they were older. And even my daughter's gone through a tough time, because when we shifted to this new society in Pune, uh, which was in 2020, and whenever she went out to play, she could sense, she would get those vibes. And there were parents who actually asked her, "So why don't you go to school?" And even prior to that, there was one girl, little girl, when we were in Mumbai, there was this little girl around 7, 8 years of age. She came and told me, "You know what?" She came and told her, Tara, who was just around 4.5 or so at that time, "Do you know, आप स्कूल नहीं जाओगे तो आप क्या बाई बनोगे?" And Tara looked at me and said, "What's wrong in becoming a bai?"
right,
So, so I was like, yeah. So at least somewhere there is, she's thinking about all these things,
Mhm.
and there used to be. So when she was around 4.5, 5, she always wanted me to be with her whenever she played outside. And when she now it's now that she's 7.5, I can see that her friends and her and their parents and have now accepted her as an individual who doesn't go to school but yet knows a lot of things, because children are naturally curious, so they want to find out and they want answers about the world around them. So she does have a lot of knowledge, which is also mostly self-learned. She self-learned to read, write, and that gave me a bigger confidence, that if the right environment is there, children can learn so much on their own. That right environment is what a parent can facilitate, especially when you are a homeschooler. You can facilitate that right environment for their
Yeah.
children.
And if there's something that they're not learning, they probably don't need to know it. My
Hmm.
kids, we were in Pune for 11 years. My kids don't know Marathi, they don't know Hindi. So I get
Hmm.
judged on that how can your kids not know Hindi? You live in India. I'm like, well, they probably didn't need to know it if they never learned it. We've
Yeah.
gotten by. It's not like we haven't. So
Right.
now we live in Chennai, so Hindi is like out of the question. No, there's no way they're gonna learn it there. But
Yeah.
when they need to know something, kids figure out a way to learn it. But
True.
as far as the whole society thing goes, I think I struggle with that a little bit because my kids very rarely have friends who are not homeschoolers. Um,
Hmm.
in the place where we live in Chennai, my daughter has friends who she plays with, but when it comes to the bonds that they have with homeschoolers, it's a lot more tight.
Right.
And
Yeah.
my daughter has very superficial friendships with kids who go to school. My son, not at all. Like he doesn't get along with
Mm.
school
Yeah.
kids at all. So that's something
Yeah.
that I always a little bit of apprehension I always have
Mm.
when he's socializing with someone new because I always ask that, are they homeschoolers? And if they are, like in my mind, I feel a little bit at ease because
Mm.
I've seen how homeschoolers are. It's been
Yeah.
6 years, so they're not competitive, they're not aggressive, they want to collaborate and they're friendly and so
Mm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think for my son it's been more of a struggle socializing with non-homeschoolers. And again,
Mm.
when it people ask me like, well, when they go to offices or they have jobs, they're not going to get to choose who they're surrounded by. You work with whoever you work with and they come from all different backgrounds. And I agree that, when you go to an office, you have to learn to work with everybody, but you don't have to socialize with everybody. You're not forced to socialize with people who you don't get along with. You might need to work with them to get a task done, but you don't have to be best friends with someone who you don't like. So I don't see the whole purpose of, in a classroom being friends or forced to be friends with someone who's sitting
Mm.
next just because they're sitting next to you and they're in your
Right.
class.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I
And
go ahead, yeah.
yeah, so I think even with school going children, yeah, they don't become best friends with everybody in class, right? They just, everybody has a selected few who become, and just maybe one or two who are your best friends, and you like to really hang out with them all the time. So yeah, just as you are sharing, my boys too have difficulty being with non-homeschoolers, and I think the part of deschooling for me was to be okay with it.
Right.
Yeah, so it was about being okay with it and respecting them for that, and not pushing them to go out and play and to be with other children, and which used to kind of happen initially. I used to see children playing football. I knew my son loved football. I would say, go, 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 go and play with them. And he would say that I don't want to. And being open and you know respecting him for not wanting to play was a big part of my deschooling. So I know we are over an hour, but there is a question.
Oh, where did you see the question? I can't see anything.
So I'm going to just
Ah,
pick up. In the comment section, if you click on comments, you'll see it.
okay.
So, how can I respond to my 5-year-old who wants to go to school observing her cousins and pretty school stuff? Maybe I can answer that because Tara
Okay.
did go to school. Tara was so when we shifted to Pune, she was in fact even before that she was really attracted to all the fancy stuff of the school bag, the water bottle, and all those things. And though we did get her all those things, she was also attracted to a school bus, and she wanted to experience. She because her friends kept talking about, oh, we did this at school today, we did that at school today, and she wanted to experience it. So she did experience school. We did not deny her that experience because I feel denying her that experience would mean not letting her do what she wants to, which goes against the unschooling principles too. So she experienced school for a couple of months, October and November. And during those times also, she actually realized that being part of a school or a class means a lot of things. You have to wait for your turn, you have to do work that your teacher assigns you to do. You, if you are caught not focusing, at times the teacher pulls you up. She actually she saw that she was not allowed to eat during class. She was not allowed to draw and paint what she wanted to, but just follow what what the teacher wanted her to do. And she was not happy. She was not happy. She knew that this was not how she wanted to learn. And so by the time it was end of November, she voiced that I don't want to be doing schooling. And we yet, said, I always believe that you need to try schooling out anything that you take up for a few weeks before you come to the decision. So at that time, school was online, but later it became offline. They started going twice a week. I said, experience that. But even when she went offline, went to the campus, she felt that she didn't want to do it. There was something that was not agreeing with her. She wasn't able to completely, but we trusted her. And we said that, okay, you're not happy, then let's not do it. You can do it your own way. I know learning happens because now I've been deschooled, right? So now I believe that there is learning in everything that you do.
Right.
Every little thing that you do, there is some or the other learning that is there. So Jan onward, she's not been going to school. For a while, we tried doing the lesson plans that were shared with us by the school teachers, but we gave it up because her interests changed. So while the teacher was doing the theme water at school, she started asking questions about planets and why we don't find water on other planets. And so then we went into a complete different this about understanding planets, solar system, universe, galaxy, black hole. So yeah, while the school had a plan, they went into aquatic animals and marine life, and she just wasn't interested in doing that. And so yes, if the child wants to experience school, go check if you find a place where you are happy with, that they are not going to do any harm to your child. It's a safe space for your child. Let them experience. And if your child loves it and likes being there, then don't do the disservice of taking them out. Then it is because a school, if a child's enjoying in that space, then that is where the child needs to be. Yeah.
And I think another important thing to remember is that, it is up to the parents to plan activities. So I know that for my daughter's field trips, school trips used to be the most fun. So I made sure that, even though we were not in school now, we were still doing field trips. So we would still do those kinds of activities, go to a factory, like see how milk is made, or, how the cows are milked, and then museums. So we continued to do the fun stuff, or, the sports continued with after school programs. But just those 8 hours that they would spend in school, that wasn't there. But I made sure that whatever my kids did enjoy, we kept doing those things. So I think, for a 5-year old, you can, first of all, still approach the little preschools in the area that are run out of someone's house. And, the feeling of going to school can still be there because your child is young enough. But then, planning those fun activities that whoever, whatever her cousins are doing that sound like fun, you can try to replicate that at home.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've used to also have craft sessions at home because my daughter likes craft, and she would want. We used to play teacher teacher. I used to be the teacher. She would set up, we had a blackboard and the entire environment. So she would be a student along with her soft toys. And we used to play so much of teacher, teacher.
Yeah,
And then one fine day she got over the whole teacher, teacher stuff and she
yeah,
didn't want to do it anymore. So, yeah, so yes, replicating what they are enjoying, the experiences that they need. If you can create that atmosphere at home, it works. It helps a lot.
yeah,
So we also did worksheets and workbooks because that's what she wanted. She wanted a bag with all the books that her friends were carrying. So we had that. We brought in books and workbooks and everything for her to learn.
right.
So yeah, yeah. No stopping, let your creativity flow and do what you enjoy. Involve your child in these decisions, it
Yeah.
becomes a bigger joyful experience then.
And knowing other homeschoolers helps. Being friends and having a circle of homeschoolers around you helps. I can see one more question that came earlier in the session about a
Yes,
child missing going on the school bus. So
yes,
that,
yeah.
like the Pune homeschoolers used to set up field trips where they would book a bus and go on a trip. So, that's another option where, or even just the local buses, you can take them on a ride on a local bus if they're
Mhm.
missing the school bus experience. I don't like school buses. And I just see like the bullying that takes place where the older kids are mean to the younger kids. So that's what I remember from school buses. But if
Yeah.
your child misses a school bus, you can definitely try to replicate the whole school bus atmosphere too, taking them
Mhm.
on trips and taking them on a
Yes,
bus.
yeah, yeah. So when my daughter wanted to go on school buses, there was a huge phase. So the bus used to stop right outside our Mumbai house, and she wanted to go in it and go along with her friend. So and then my older one would say, "Why would you ever want to go by school bus? Mama sent us by school bus for so many years, and I would always want to. I would try and get ready take as much time to get ready so that we would miss the bus and she would drop us herself. There was so much fun when Mama drops us. So, these conversations also that she's had with her brothers help her relook at things. So, yes, there has to be a lot of interaction, a lot of peer interaction, which can come when you do a lot of homeschooler meetups, and even neighbors and people around you. And yes, it does take time, but when the children are younger, I've seen parents are more open to accepting younger children than older children. So your neighborhood and everyone would be more, because it's only about playing together for a bit and all that. But older children, yes, it becomes difficult even for them to gel in and for the other children to accept them. So, yeah. I think we've gone over an hour, 1 hour, 12 minutes. Yeah, we can talk and talk and talk about deschooling.
Yeah.
It was fun chatting
Yeah,
and
nice
talking to
talking to you too.
you. Yes, talking about it. Um, I think let's
Yeah,
let's
and
say
we're always on the Facebook Homeschooling India group in case anybody wants to ask more questions. And so, yeah,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you,
see you.
Sharmila. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks.